Let's start. We're going to start in Sukhasana. So we're going to do some poses before the pranayama to make the body relaxed enough. So Sukhasana, gap between the legs and pelvis. Obviously, you can sit on blocks. If you're on more than one block, then you'll need to have a blanket underneath the shins, which acts as a brake, so your legs don't just travel ad infinitum. We're going to have the palms up in a mudra. This is the Jnana mudra. And if you want, you can close your eyes. If this isn't a comfortable position, of course, you can sit in another position if it's more comfortable. But don't forget, you can provide more support, as mentioned, with blankets underneath the shins if you're on 2 blocks. Close your eyes when you're ready and drop the shoulders. Notice the breath coming and going through your nose. Notice that there's a little bit more resistance on the way in. And this is because of the direction of the nasal hairs, which resist the incoming breath and allow the outgoing breath. It's because of the barrier, or set of barriers that we can say are the little blockages that the air has to go through, the sinuses. And we can notice that as the air comes in, it meets the warmth of the nasal coverings, the nasal insides of the nasal passages, which both warms and humidifies the incoming air. So that sinus membrane. And because this breathing through the nose gradually begins to calm the mind, it also begins to release the intercostal muscles between the ribs so that the inhale becomes a little deeper, and that means the ribs begin to lift with the inhale and open, and that means your exhale will slow down a bit. So at the moment we're just breathing in and out through the nose if you can. We're noticing the qualitative difference between inhale and exhale, particularly in terms of resistance on the inhale. And perhaps you can sense the sinus membranes. And like many parts of the body, when we're tense or excited, the sinus membranes there's more blood flow in them, and so they become a little engorged, and so the space in the sinuses becomes less spacious. So another reason why a pranayama is a call to calmness. So just a few more of these breaths. They're very simple, but let's not underestimate sitting cross-legged, noticing the qualitative difference between inhale and exhale. Perhaps noticing the resistance of the direction of the hairs in the nose as you breathe in. So we can call that viloma. The inhale, obviously that's not the pranayama of the same name, but viloma means against the direction of the hairs. And anuloma, again, not referring to the specific pranayama practice, anuloma means with the hairs, so that can also refer to the exhalation. Next time you take an inhalation, lift up with it and bring your right hand on the floor behind you. Left hand crosses over both legs. Turn without struggle. A lovely relaxed awareness of the 3 channels. Obviously, different texts talk about different amounts of channels, 3, 10, 72,000 is quite a common number, 180, a million, and so on. But when you're feeling the channels, you can feel left channel, left side, right side channels, and central channel, experimentally, investigatively, calmly. So you can drop one side, lengthen the other, breathe through your nose, nice and soft, nice and calm, nice and easeful, nice and meditative. And we're tuning in on tendencies that we also call samskaras, which are the domain of karma, tendencies, or samskaras or compulsions, are the domain of karma. The karma is the domain of compulsion, compulsive action, drives, essentially not free. The karmic realm is everything's co-creating everything, everything's compulsive, reactive. Okay, release and turn the other direction. So same thing, just a very gentle awareness of the three channels, the central channel and the left and the right channel, which come by various names, but perhaps most well known is Ida and Pingala. Ida referring to the left and Pingala referring to the right. Ida meaning things like gentle and Pingala meaning reddish. And the central channel, who is sometimes called Sushumna, that channel, of course, that means gracious. So just feel the left and right sides of the spinal column, tune in. There's sort of tuning into this aliveness without attachment to how we want it to be or how we think it should be. It begins the process of disentanglement. It's so important in yoga. So experiment, shorten one side, lengthen the other side. Play between the sides, move forwards, move backwards. So that you get vahita, flow. Flow is the same as non-attachment. One of the things we're doing in pranayama is disrupting habituated or conditioned or compulsive breath tendencies that mirror compulsive mental tendencies, physical tendencies. Return to center when you're ready. We're going to take the legs into a wide stride. So as soon as you're ready, you can do that seated wide stride. I just realized my phone was making a noise. I'm going to repress it. So it's Upavishta Konasana. So you can sit, of course, on a block. If you sit on the block, the corner of the block faces forwards, interestingly, or a little bit interestingly. The word kona is cognate with the English word corner. So the corner of the block faces forwards, and this pose is called Upavishta Konasana. So kona, corner. So you make a sort of corner with the legs. Not too wide, and hopefully you can sit up, and don't forget you can use a block or even two if you need to. Obviously, if you sit on more, there's more possibility that the knees might sag a bit and overstretch. You can remedy that by bending the knees, which is actually just straightening them, and then pulling up from the tibial tuberosities if that happens. Inhale, lift. Exhale, turn towards your right leg. And again, it'd be lovely if we could explore those channels. And so exploration is always relaxed. Pranayama is always relaxed. Yoga is always relaxed. Particularly if you look at the Yoga Sutra, it's very, very clear. Sanskrit word chaitilya means relaxed. So as you're breathing, as you're turning, softening the temples because of the release of the jaw. Breathing through the nose. Empty of grasping, aparigraha. And it's all about the breath. Its flow is indicative of flow in the mind. Flow in the mind is the same as non-attachment. It's just a sort of more warm way of putting it. Lift and turn round the other direction if you're ready, towards the other leg. And again, let's contemplate the relative lift and height of the adjacent channels. Adjacent, that is, to the central channel. Breathe without holding your breath. Soften the temples, soften the eyes, soften the jaw, soften the legs. Natural breaths, easy breaths, honest breaths. So this is very, free, loose, tuning in modality. I'm really interested in yoga, the tuning in modality. We're dropping whatever the mind has taken hold of, because that's happening in tendencies in the energy body, the so-called prana sharira or prana deha, energy body. Okay, nice and easy return to center. Hopefully you can bring your legs back together. We're going to lay down in Supta Sukhasana. It's worth having a belt nearby, not for this pose particularly, but for the pose that follows. So if you haven't got a belt, in fact, I'll get myself one. Now, it will just save you moving in a minute when we come to use the belt. So have that by your side. You start sitting up cross-legged. I was too keen to go down then. Fingers face forwards, scoot the buttocks under 2 or 3 times. By the way, if your back is tight, it's definitely worth putting your feet up on a platform of blocks, a couple long side to long side. And then you lay down, whether your feet are on blocks or whether the feet are right on the floor. Again, as I just mentioned, it depends on if the back's holding any tension, knowing that the back is the connecting point for the diaphragm. It is important, therefore, to make sure the back is not holding tension associated with grasping. You can rest your hands on your lower ribs if that's comfortable. Breathe through your nose if it's possible. Soften the eyes and the temples. Sense of noticing where the body's holding, for example, the neck, the jaw, the lower back. Now, there's also the option to extend the arms over the head, which is an option I certainly like to do, but only if you do it the right way. And the right way to bring the arms over the head is oftentimes to sway them side to side, so you can pick up each shoulder blade and move the bottom inner edge of each shoulder blade out and up until the arms can come down. Now, the breath should be spontaneous. You can, of course, land your hands on something. You don't have to stretch your arms over the head, but it has the advantage, of course, of stretching the psoas, in the deep belly and the inner groin area. And the release of the psoas necessarily goes with the release of the diaphragm, which goes with the release of the mind, as we know from our first text on hatha yoga, the Amrita Siddhi, which says, don't try and change your mind with your mind, use the breath. Because this is an understanding that the vayus, the winds, the energies, the pranas that move around the body are the movements of habit, are the movements of the mind, are the movements of energy, are the movements of tendency, are the movements of karma, are the movements of compulsion. A few more breaths where you are. Perhaps there's an opportunity for giving more. Okay, it's really lovely to stay in this pose, but we're going to change the cross of the legs. So we're going to bring the other leg in front. We're going to bring the hands to the buttocks and scoot them under. Don't forget, you can use a blanket around your shins just as you would in regular Sukhasana. You'd have to start off by sitting up to do that. And you can use supports underneath your feet, blocks long side to long side. Again, the hands can be on the ribs, or you can move your arms to move your shoulder blades. It's all about the breath, meaning that the breath is both the means by which we listen and respond simultaneously. So we can immediately feel tensions when we feel the breath, and we can immediately, at exactly the same time, release those tensions. And this is the movement as we've described in Vajrasati, from a closed fist to an open palm. The general motion or general direction that we're walking in as a yoga practitioner. Coming back to the jaw being soft, of course, the jaw being soft softens the temples, but also the tongue and many of the muscles in the neck itself, like the scalenes, like the platysma, like the descending fibers of the trapezius, like the lavator scapula, all around the neck and the throat, to collarbones, to shoulder blades, breastbone. Opportunity to release. Okay, well done, everyone. Bring your legs back together. And this is where we're going to take our pata, our belt. If you had your feet on a block before, you might want to just push those blocks to one side, because again, we're going to focus in a moment on the psoas. But before we do, we're going to take our pata, our belt, around either foot. Obviously, we're going to do both. Make sure you've got room to the side of the foot that you choose first. We're going to go around the ball of the foot today. We very often go around the front of the heel. But going around the ball of the foot gives us an opportunity to feel the front of the foot, and to really focus on space within the bones of the foot. Can't quite remember if there's 24 or 26. I could count them off, but it would take a little while. But there's several bones. You know, we've got the cuneiform bones. We've got the cuboid. We've got the navicular. We've got the various long bones, the metatarsals, and then the toes, the phalanges. We've got the calcaneus, the large heel bone. There's lots and lots of bones in the foot, which we can make space by moving the foot. And of course, space, or akasha, is the founding principle of pranayama. You've got to have space for the prana to move through. If there's not space in certain parts of the body, then it goes where it can, and it might cause veritable floods, too much energy. Whereas what we're looking for in pranayama and yoga generally is vyana vayu, all over energy, equally distributed. Now, when you're ready, extend your lower leg, nudge out the lower leg to open up the inner groin through repetition. So this is a highly lovely, meditative, repetitive investigation. You can do things like raise the leg. Sometimes that helps me get more access to the inner groin, or you can move the lower leg foot, turning it out, turning it in, pushing the heel, stretching the toes, a lot of different things. And any mix up of those that actually gets you into the inner groin extension. The inner groin extension. Hold the pata with one hand only, the other hand's free to rest on the other leg. Pull the belt towards you, pull the leg towards you, and then the leg out to its own side. So this is Supta Padangusthasana number 2. So it's very important to breathe in between the front hip points. That's the meditative awareness. Jaw stays passive the whole time. And again, we're coming back to that passivity of the jaw, passivity of the temples, the passivity of the frontalis on the front of the skull, the muscles there. Passivity of the muscles around the eyes and mouth, the ocularis around the mouth. And then leg comes up when you're ready. Bend your lower leg, release your upper leg, scoot the buttocks, take a deep breath. Or 2. So we've got these natural deep breaths beginning to find their way, feel their way through the body's nadis, channels. Let's not forget that the word nadi
It comes from the root nud, and the root nud means to flow. And for this reason, the root nud is the root of the word nadi, and also the root of the word nadi, which means river. So nadi is energy channels, nadi is river. When you're ready, raise up the other leg. Similarly, for me, I'm going to turn around because of the space. You might need to do the same, or you might have space to both sides. And the belt goes similarly around the ball of the foot. And again, we'll start our journey into space. Sounds a bit sci-fi. Or spaciousness, akasha. We're going to extend that lower leg, and again, looking at space. So the upper leg, we're looking at space in the long bones of the foot that run up to the toes, the metatarsals. Space within the bones behind those, the tarsal bones that, as I mentioned, include the cuboid, the cuneiform, the navicular, the talus, and the calcaneus. And then on the lower leg, without any sense of limitation in terms of time, we've got imagine ourselves into limitless, like endlessness, timelessness, or as Patanjali calls it ananta, which ananta means without end. So nudging into that inner groin, but without a sense of trying to get to a fixed destination. And that just gets you involved. You forget, you step out of time, which is very, very important. If you think about one of the biggest stresses in life that we experience is time, isn't it? So an experience of timelessness, that's magic. And we're going to hold the pata, the belt, with one hand only, the same hand as the raised leg. The other hand is free to come onto the lower leg, which again, you can still find ways as you like to extend the inner groin. When you're ready, top leg towards your head and out to its own side. Breathe through your nose if you can. Relax the neck if you can. Keep the jaw passive. You can feel as muscles relax that prana floods in, energy floods in. There's a connection between tension and being pranically starved. And of course, it's not just prana in the sort of sense of energy, but everything else on the more material level as well. If we're tense, then our blood has difficulty, our lymph has difficulty in flowing. Okay, very calmly bring that leg back up. When you're ready, bend the lower leg, release the upper leg. Take a breath, deep breath, or 2 or 3 or 4. Roll straight over when you're ready and into Adho Mukha Svanasana via Bhamanasana, via the so-called table pose. So Adho Mukha Svanasana, of course, is the dog pose. And as ever, we're going to spend a bit of time really focused on opening up through the back, through the breath, by moving in wave-like investigative movements, moving the pelvis left, moving the pelvis right, patting the heels. The important thing is not to hold the breath, to let it remain expressive, because the body, brain, breath are one. What happens in the body has to happen in the breath for it to be able to happen in the body. So flow in terms of energy, in terms of space, in terms of intelligence, floods everywhere. Okay, take your hands a little wider. Bring your shoulders forwards. Balance the wrists. Come via your my favorite, Chaturanga Dandasana to Urdhva Mukha
Svanasana. So that's the head up dog, either with toes tucked under or toes pointing back. Tone from pubis to chest. Tone from pubis to chest means draw your tummy in from pubis and lift up to the chest from the pubis. Pressing through the back of the arms to the heels of the hands. Legs are off the floor, even if not far. Breath is deep, expressive, honest. Okay, drop to the knees, back to hands and knees. Catch 3 deep breaths, please, or 4 even. It's natural, expressive. Really let it happen. So we've got this rejaka, puraka, this exhalation, inhalation, a naturalness that is allied to the flow of prana, that's allied to a flow in the mind, which is why pranayama is not something we so much superimpose on the body, but it is the body, it is the mind. We're going to come forwards. Now, I'm on a carpeted floor, which I don't normally practice on a carpeted floor, but I do when I Zoom. So I can kneel like this and it's comfortable, but you might want to fold your yoga mat in half for more comfort for your shins. We're going to place the hands on their hips, fingers face forwards, thumbs point towards each other along the back. And we're just on the ridge of the pelvis, the posterior superior iliac spine. Personally, I've got my legs together and feet together. But if you're not someone who practices this regularly, or you don't feel there's a lot of space in the body, then you have your knees hand width apart and your feet the same distance as that. Press down dynamically into that crest of the back of the pelvis, the posterior superior iliac spine, with your hands. Suck in the tummy dynamically and simply visualize and feel that you're taking one vertebrae off the other all the way through the spinal column. The tummy stays very dynamically toned. The hands stay dynamically pressing. There's a sense in which the lift of the chest and the spine is somehow connected to a sense of pressing down through the shins. And so this is like Ustrasana, but actually we're focused only on timeless lifting. We're not thinking that this is happening within a certain time frame when we've got to obtain a certain objective, but our only objective is constantly taking one vertebrae off the one below it, and it just goes on like that the whole time. Sometimes it does occur, of course, but if you do that for long enough, you end up with your hands in a position where they're so close to the feet that you might as well bring them on the feet. Well, that's fine, and you're welcome to do that if you want. But if you focus on that, the tendency is to shorten the back, to take away that space, to hold the breath, to twist the body. All sorts of problems come if we think our goal is to bring our hands to our feet rather than taking one vertebrae off the other. Okay, inhale, come on up. Well done. Sit down. You can put a block between the heels and buttocks if your knees are tight. Catch 3 deep breaths. Just notice how the breath is now. Notice how prana is. So the breath and prana flowing, 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 flowing. Jaw soft. Eyes soft. Flowing, flowing breath. Flowing, flowing prana. And remember, what happens in the pranic, on the pranic level is happening on all the superficial levels to that. So superficial to the pranic level is the mind level. Superficial to the mind level is the body level. Superficial to the body level is things. So for prana to flow, mind also. For mind to flow, body also. For body to flow, universe also. We're talking about nothing less than enlightenment, by the way. Okay, pop up on that bombshell. We're going to do it one more time. It's important not to hold the breath when you're practicing this. Some of you know that when I did my first yoga teacher training course, we did practice murcha, and we practiced it using this pose. Murcha means to swoon or to faint. And indeed, everyone did faint because we were encouraged to do this pose
and hold our breath in it. So don't hold your breath in it. Push down, tone your tummy, get that height. Only you close your eyes if you want. Keep breathing. Focus on drawing one vertebrae off the other. Particularly, we're talking about the lumbar vertebrae, which are 5. Very occasionally, some people have 6, but usually 5. Large bones. So perhaps you can feel the largeness, the weight, the size of each of those lumbar vertebrae lifting off the one beneath it, and only that, timelessly focused on only that. And as I said before, if you end up with the lift turning into arch and the arch continuing without you really noticing, to the point where the hands might as well come to the feet, well, that's fine, no problem. But that should not be at any point the goal of Ustrasana. If the hands did come to the feet under the circumstances I've described, then you're pressing your shins, drawing in your tummy, pulling over to keep that sense of vertebrae away from vertebrae going on the whole time. Coming up when you're ready, nice and calm. Again, you can have a block between the heels and buttocks if you need it. Let's take some deep breaths through the nose if we can. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, tongue soft. Now we're just going to visualize that our in-breaths come from the forehead down to the pelvic floor in a sort of arc. And the exhales follow another arc back to the forehead. So these are superimposing the channels in a sort of arc shape, so that the inhale comes down to the pelvic floor. Now, when you reach the pelvic floor with each inhale, hold the breath for a moment. Invite, see if any of the energy wants to go up through the central channel, which it might, or maybe all of it does, and that which doesn't goes out through the out-breath through the opposite channel. So this is an earlier tantric form of Nadi Shodhana. From the forehead center, the Agnya chakra, or Ajna chakra, down to the so-called Muladhara chakra, and then from there up, back to the Agnya or Ajna, the command center at the forehead. It'll pause as you get to the pelvic floor and invite energy up through the central channel. More rounds like this. That inhale moving down and through that bow shape, superimposed channel to the pelvic floor, and then the exhale going from the pelvic floor back through. But perhaps some of the energy from that escapes up through the central channel. Maybe all of it does with the exhale. Any left goes up through that opposite side. One more round after the one you're on. And then return to Rejaka Puraka. In natural exhalation and inhalation. Now we're going to practice some anuloma, digitally controlled exhalation. We're going to do it in the simplest way possible. That is, we're going to take a little hasta mudra. So that looks that little hasta mudra. And you're going to make a little pincer out of your hasta mudra. Traditionally, they say use your right hand, but
can use our left if we want to. And that mudra is going to go on to your nose like this. You can see there's little indentations for your fingers to go to. You can either curl your fingers, or if you straighten your fingers, make sure you don't push your head backwards. You've got to keep the chest up and chin down. And we're going to open the nostrils for the inhalations and then partially close them for the exhalations. Now, you can also stretch them when you're exhaling so that you can open the channels of the nostrils before partially closing them, because sometimes they're just closed in the first place. So we can begin when we're ready with this anuloma, digitally controlled exhalation. Keep the head down and chest up. And give streams of pranic particles. 2 more rounds after the one you're on. Make sure not to turn the head left or right. And we'll be returning to ordinary breath when we feel ready to do so. We're going to move our position now so that we can sit in Sukhasana on blocks with a blanket or a towel if you haven't got a blanket for the shins. Regular Sukhasana, of course, is cross-legged. We know the word Sukha is combined of made of 2 particles, Su and Ka. Su means good, Ka means space. So we get ourselves comfortable in that good space. And then we're going to bring some prana around the heart center. Around the heart center, the hridaya, meaning heart. So the word where we're going to do that is we're going to breathe in a sort of viloma manner, in bits of the in-breath, bit more of the in-breath, bit more of the in-breath, bit more of the in-breath. And then we're going to hold the breath and massage that prana that came in the form of the breath. We're going to massage it with the following actions. So I'll just demonstrate, and then we can do it together in a moment. So just observe. I'll try and put the microphone near my nose so you can hear. You consider yourself to be strengthening the heart. So I did 5 while holding the breath of these lassos. Remember, these are to move the heart chakra area. And I did 5 also after the set of 5. I did 5 of these other actions that massage the heart. One mistake that happens here is that the hand slips around the thigh. We're not rubbing the thigh, we're massaging the heart. But you might want to do 3 in each set rather than 5, because it's a bit quite a long time to hold the breath, although the world record for holding the breath on a single inhalation after oxygenating the body is 24 minutes, so it should be okay. So when you're ready, we're going to breathe, rebreathe, which means we're going to take the breath in a few gentle steps with gentle pauses of half a second, and then we're going to hold the breath and we're going to massage the heart with 3 or 5 of these actions, and then 3 or 5 of these actions, and all the time you're intending to strengthen in the heart. That's the sankalpa. So when you're ready, breathing into the heart. And once you breathe out, you just sit in what Tibetans call rigpa, which roughly equates to the Sanskrit vidya, which means knowing. So that can be translated as non-duality, because knowledge is in the middle. It's not any polarity, it's emptiness. Going to do the same practice again when you're ready. Remember, you're breathing in steps, bit of the inhale, bit of the same inhale, no exhale, bit more of the same inhale until you feel comfortable and full, and then you take the actions again. Don't release the breath until you finish the actions, unless you need to, of course. So when you're ready, let's go again. And when you breathe out again, you sit in Rigpa. Which we can translate as the middle, the center, the heart, non-duality, emptiness, because the mind isn't grasping anything in particular. Now we're going to do the practice for the all-over energy, the Vyana Vayu. So this time we're going to breathe and rebreathe the same way into the pelvic floor area, and then we're going to hold the breath, and then I'll show you the actions of that whole practice. So if you just observe, you're here, hopefully you're here, and me breathing in little steps, and then you'll see the actions, which involve a clapping, and the clapping makes energy that you then wash with. And before spreading the energy across the body with these bows and arrow kind of movements, again, you can do 5 of them, but you can also reduce it to 3. So here's how it looks, breathing into the pelvic floor in steps and holding the breath. When you breathe out, you imagine you're breathing out through every pore of the body. So for the Vyana, or the all-over pervasive Vayu, energy, this is a synonym for prana. So remember, breathing into the pelvic floor and holding your breath in steps, then clapping. Use the energy of the clap to wash every part of the body before your bows and arrows. If you're thinking about asking which side do you start with first, it differs in different traditions, so don't worry about it. Okay. So when you're ready, let's breathe in steps to the pelvic floor. Again, it's sitting in Rikpa. Going to breathe for the next practice right down into, again, the pelvic floor area. It's not quite as low as that. It's 3 finger widths below the navel. And the channel goes from that three finger widths below the navel to the pelvic floor. There's a channel that we're opening up there. And so for this action, we'll need to take what's called the basket hold. So your knees will be drawn up in this manner. You'll breathe into that 0.3 finger widths below the navel, and then you'll go 3 anti-clockwise, 3 clockwise, 3 anti-clockwise. So it will be holding one leg, holding the other, and then holding both. So here's the demonstration of that, breathing into what's called the khanda, which is the bulb. That's the point, 3 finger widths below the navel. So here's how it looks. You breathe out. So anti-clockwise, clockwise, and then anti-clockwise. Holding one leg, holding the other, holding both. Okay. So when you're ready, find where the khanda is first, 3 finger widths below the navel, more or less. It's not exact. You have to poke around. You should be able to feel a shot of energy that goes from that place to the genitals. When you get that area right, it's sometimes called the secret chakra. Once you found that place, get ready for the basket hold in the 3 directions. The last one, you're holding both knees and you're holding the breath the whole time. Again, sitting in Rigpa. One more of the same. When you're ready, breathing in steps, very much like Viloma, and then taking your direction. You can do 5 or 3, up to you. These are the super powerful Lung Trul Khor. Tsa means energy channels. Lung means the energy that passes through them. So it's equivalent to Nadi Prana. Trul Khor means magical cycle, magical mandala. Now for our penultimate practice, we're going to practice Brahmari. So you might know Brahmari. We're going to do it with the Shanmukhi Mudra. So the Shanmukhi means 6 gates. Mukhi is in the same semantic range as Mukha, like Adho Mukha Svanasana. So Mukha can mean face, mouth, gate, portal, lots of different things. And so here it means 6 gates, Shanmukhi. We're going to be closing the eyes with 2 fingers. I'll come a bit closer actually so you can see better. You're going to be closing the eyes like this. You're going to be closing the tragus, which is the cartilaginous flap across the ear. You're going to be partially closing the nostrils once you begin the practice. But before you begin the practice, you'll be taking a deep breath in and out without obstructing the nostrils. Then inhales and exhales are taken through narrowed or partly obstructed nostrils. The exhales are hummed, and that's the only difference between them. So, like that, you get what it's like to hum. You don't want to watch me do it. So, when you're ready, we can begin. Let's do 5 rounds. 5 rounds of Brahmari with Shanmukhi Mudra. Start with a deep breath in and out through open nostrils. Then it's partially closed nostrils through inhale and exhale with humming exhales. We're going to send Om through the central channel 3 times. It's up to us to make this work. We can't expect it to work if we don't put in the confidence and the visualization, the energy to it. So we have to visualize and imagine that we're actually pushing the sound up like a needle to pierce through blockages at the base of each chakra, granthis, so-called granthis, which means knots. So we're using this sound needle now. Particularly, there are particular blockages around the sinus area, starting with the nirodhika, which means the blocker. So you need to make that needle extra sharp at that point, which means making the sound extra nasal at that point. So the anuswara, which is the M with a dot underneath it at the end of Om and Hum and various other mantras, that anuswara is just a nasal sound, and we're going to make it in the most sort of nasally way, you know, really vibrated through the nasal passages to go through these various blockers, and Nirodhika and Ardha Chandra and so on, until you can move right up at the crown of the head, unifying. And in some traditions, there's a belief that you're unifying Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Shakti meaning consciousness and manifestation, so that they become undifferentiated. So, when you're ready, when we're ready, we're going to breathe down to the pelvic floor and then viscerally push it up and make it very sinusy as it gets to the nasal area. So deep breath in. Om. Om. Last one. Om. And of course, at the end, there'll be deep breaths that are natural. Shoulders down, breath is natural. We'd probably like to sit.
in stillness, in rigpa, stillness or yogasthita vritti nirodha, stilling of consciousness. Yoga is the stilling of the oscillations of the mind until the mind becomes a clean, clear crystal pool, metaphorically reflecting, able to reflect clearly the nature of the Purusha, whose nature is ageless, deathless, timeless, genderless, has no, this or that. Freedom, in other words, uncharacterized. We're going to bring ourselves to laying on our backs. Now, it's useful to make sure you've got a head support after pranayama. So make sure you have a block or a neatly folded blanket or towel. We're going to lay on our backs. Make sure also there's plenty of space for your arms. If you want to support your legs with a bolster, you can. Make sure you're very, very comfortable. Make sure you're warm. Make sure you've got head support. And it's essential to do corpse pose after pranayama. And it's very, very important not to go into any pranic exciting environments where pranic energy is moving in lots of different directions. For example, a party or a pub or, a busy restaurant or even a busy room for at least 20 minutes after your pranayama if you can avoid it. So once you're laying down with the head slightly tipped towards the chest and the shoulder blades scooted under, we let everything release completely. We let everything release completely. So the jaw, the tongue, the eyes, the brain, the eyes are closed. Softness around the temples. Sharanagati, surrender. Resting in the great before name, before form, before age, before gender, before history, before opinions, before decisions. Notice the gentle spread and flooding and pervading of energy in the chest as you wiggle and move your fingers. Just feel that energy as warmth or tingling or buzzing or fizzing. Move through all the molecules of the chest, front and back, through the shoulders, through the arms, to the fingers as they move. Feel that energy gently spread upwardly and downwardly. Similarly, move your toes and feel the pelvis, front and back, fizzing, buzzing, vibrating, being immersed, flooded, pervaded by energy. As we move the toes, and that energy moves through the pelvis, through the buttocks, through the legs, through the knees, through the calves and shins and feet. And the energy of moving toes and fingers, which we'll do simultaneously, spreads throughout the body, pervades every part of the body with gentle, loving, soft, calm, equal, upeksha energy. When you feel that energy, natural iccha occurs, that is, natural urges that are karmaless, urges to move, to rub the eyes, to run a hand through their hair, to stretch in various ways. So we follow those natural iccha, the natural urges. And when you feel ready to bend your legs, that's a great thing to do because it gives you a chance to scoot the buttocks under towards the heels and to take an extra deep breath to release the lower back entirely. Take a few breaths with the lower back releasing entirely, completely. Roll to your left when you're ready. Stay a while with your knees up, tummy soft. Focus on the softness of your tummy. When you're ready, roll again and lay as comfortably as you can on your other side. Again, knees up, tummy soft. Slowly coming round, maybe with more rubbing of the eyes, running a hand through the hair, stretching out an arm or a leg, or whatever feels right, running a hand across the shoulders, whatever. And when ready and naturally so, you can come up from the side. And we have a shrine to Patanjali with a rupa and a picture of Patanjali, voila, with a veritable jungle around him. And if we agree with the following sentence, we can say Om. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. My gratitude to you. Thank you so much for coming. Really good to see you. A reminder that this weekend, Saturday, 11:30, we have not only a tulku, which is a reincarnated lama, but also a lama, which is a teacher, also a geishe, which is someone who's done their sort of like a high-level degree in tantric Buddhist studies, and of course the obligatory Rinpoche, precious, Abhe is his name, and he's coming on Saturday, literally just 2 minutes away from my house over there, and we're hosting an event with him. So do come at 11:30 if you can, bring some lunch to share, make a donation. I'll try to remember to video the interview that I'll do with him at least, and I'll put that up on YouTube or something like that, and his talk as well. So
If you can't make it, hopefully I'll get those up. Anyway, there you go. It's an advert. Thanks very much for your time. Great to see you. Love and peace all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Back at you. Love you guys. Thanks for coming.